Governor Chris Sununu joins me now. So let's start with the politics of this, because you've done more than 50 events, maybe more than that with Nikki Haley. And you are quite popular, as I mentioned, in this state. She is currently running, according to the daily tracking poll, 19 points behind Donald Trump. I know you might tell me that polls don't matter. We'll see tomorrow. But the question I have for you is, if she does that, if she performs 19 points behind Trump, if she gets second by 19 points, is that enough to stay in the race?
Well, sure. She's going to her home state. So let's understand there's still a lot of opportunity.
Okay, but before she goes there, she's here in a state that you're very popular. You've won 4 times. If she loses by 19 points, is that enough to stay in the race after tomorrow?
Of course. So look, let's understand. There was never 2 months ago, no one said Nikki Haley has to win New Hampshire. Only Donald Trump had a mandate to win New Hampshire.
Well, she has to win somewhere.
Yeah, and by the way, there's 48 other states after New Hampshire. New Hampshire is very important. The most important part of New Hampshire is you want to clear the field. You want to narrow it down. She did that. She knocked everybody else out of the race. She got 20% in Iowa. She's going to far outpace that here in New Hampshire. She wanted to be in second. We're going to get that done. So to go into your home state, not with an election next week, but like 3 or 4 weeks down the road, where she knows how to win, that's momentum building, right?
Well, she's even farther behind in South Carolina than she is in New Hampshire.
No one's campaigned in South Carolina yet. Let's be fair. No one's driven a message in South Carolina. No one's really campaigned.
Well, Trump had a bunch of South Carolina endorsers here with him in New Hampshire on Saturday.
Who? Tim Scott.
Well,
please.
A number of people who were elected in the state from her home state. Okay, so just to be clear, you're telling me if she loses by 19 points, she should still stay in the race, and you think she could win in South Carolina?
Yeah, I don't care what the results are. Of course she should stay in the race. Yeah. We're just going to coronate Donald Trump after 2 states?
Well, I don't know.
That's
I don't know if it's a
coronation
if you win by double digits in both of the first states. Okay, let's move forward. You recently said you would support Donald Trump. You hadn't said that for a while. We had a couple of interviews where you didn't say that, but you recently said that if he's the nominee. We did talk about this a little bit back in August, and you said something that did stick with me, so let's play that. We'll talk about it. There's a tape for everything, as they say.
He can't win in November. Independents hate it. There's no way Donald Trump will win anything above 31% of the independents, which is why Republicans as a whole will get crushed if he's on. Look, as bad as he would be as being on top of the ticket because we'll lose the presidency, he hurts school board races. He hurts governorships, Congress races, congressional races, Senate races. We will lose all these seats like we did in 22 with him, that brand, that messaging, those types of candidates on those tickets. So he brings the entire party down.
I understand he's not your choice. Nikki Haley is your choice. But do you still believe he would take people down, ticket races, governor's races?
There's no question Trump on the ticket hurts our Senate races, our gubernatorial races. That's why I love Nikki Haley so much, because she doesn't just win. She wins the swing states. She makes it easier to win everything else. She carries a mandate because the poll numbers are so strong against Biden. Here in New Hampshire, Trump would lose by 7-8 points minimum against Biden. She would win. All the polls show that. So, there's value in Nikki, not just in terms of the presidency, but getting a mandate to get conservative stuff done. Trump didn't get enough done. And she would actually be able to do that. And back then, yes, again, it would be kind of a nail biter between Trump and Biden. I don't want nail biters. I don't want losers. I'm tired of losing races as a Republican. We should have had big wins in 22. You know that. And we didn't, because Trump was still the standard bearer of the party. He was still putting out his candidates. Those are losing propositions. And my big message over the next 24 hours is this. Don't sit at home. If you're in New Hampshire, don't sit at home and wait to see what happens. Go vote. Participate. If you think Trump's a threat to democracy, you participate in democracy. You beat him at the ballot box. Don't wait for court cases and all that other stuff to take him down. It's never happened before. We want to get as high of a voter turnout as possible tomorrow. And if we do that, she's got a real chance.
Do you think he is unfit, as Nikki Haley has been saying?
I think
mentally unfit, I should say, to be clear.
I'm not going to get into all that. My whole focus is making sure Nikki wins the nomination. If she does really well here, I think she could actually still win here, which would be incredible. No one thought that was possible. And then carry that momentum forward. That's all our focus is right now.
So why do you, we've talked about this a bunch of times, just to understand, why would you support him in November if you think he would bring down ticket races, if you think it's a distraction, all of the legal stuff that's happening?
Biden ain't going to help my races any, right? Look, this is how bad, I've said this before, this is how bad Joe Biden has been when you talk about inflation. Putting inflation as a tax effectively on low-income families.
Joe Biden is leading by 7 points in your home state, though.
I know, but why would? Of course, I'm going to. Is it a surprise I'm going to support the Republican nominee? Of course, and I'm going to be supporting Nikki Haley on that ticket. I'm going to do everything I can to make sure that that's possible.
Okay, well, there are many options. I've not been exactly an advocate for third-party candidates because I think it will help Donald Trump, but Chris Christie, someone you endorsed last time, he's been rumored to be in discussions or maybe thought about.
I endorsed Chris, but okay.
Well, at one
he's
point
a friend,
he did.
though. He's a good
he's
guy.
a friend. We'll say it that way. He's a friend. He's been rumored to be on their list of people they'd love to have run.
Yeah.
Nikki Haley, if she doesn't win the nomination, which would be an uphill path, all sorts of things happen in New Hampshire, she could be someone on their list.
Potentially, you got to be careful. There are sore loser rules when you're on the ballots in certain states. You can't be a third party. At this point, look, if you wanted to do a third party, and I'm not advocating, I want the Republican to win, to be sure. You'd have to have someone. You'd have to have a Republican, a generational difference, someone super charismatic, has some national presence. I'm not sure exactly who that would be.
But here's my question. But wouldn't you be open? Why wouldn't you be open to supporting a third-party candidate? If Trump is somebody who you're not really for at all, clearly.
I just don't know the viability of that. I don't know if America is looking for a third-party candidate. I've really thought about it. Like the process is, are people looking? People hate the Trump-Biden ticket, but it's amazing how, at the end of the day, a lot of folks. We're a two-party country right now. People will get scared about, oh, if I went for a third party, I'm not doing service to the party I tend to lean to, and they kind of panic and go back into their corners. I'm not saying it's not possible and viable. I haven't thought about it too much, other than to say I don't know what that ticket would be. I'm just making sure that the Republicans win. I want fiscal discipline in this country. I want the fact that people understand we have $34 trillion in debt. That is not government debt. That's your debt. That's your kids' debt. That's our debt. Well, and we have to pay that back.
The $2 trillion in high-end tax cuts did certainly contribute to that.
I would say that Trump's borrowing $8 trillion was even a bigger problem.
Fair. I think we can agree he was a big spender. We can agree on that.
Huge. Awful.
So let's just go back to the politics, because you have won here several times. Your family has won here several times. Your family's hometown is Salem. We're all looking
That's where I grew up, yeah.
We're all looking to what to watch tomorrow. It has a long history. You have a long history again in public office. But Trump got 48% of the vote, right, in 2016.
Did he?
Yes, he did get 48% of the vote in Salem. There's a
my hometown, you mean?
In your hometown.
Okay, yeah.
There's a much smaller field now, obviously, with two people. He could get a bigger percentage in your hometown. What does that?
He could get a smaller percentage in my hometown.
Well, but what would that say if he gets larger than 48%?
Oh, I haven't even thought about that. That's kind of a microcosm event. Look, what would you say if I said I think Nikki Haley's going to run the table in Dixville Notch tomorrow, where Trump got a couple of votes last time, but Nikki could run the table. You can't look at these microcosms and try to pinpoint to the whole state.
All of them are bellwethers to see how the state is going to go. You've run here, you know how to watch.
No, not all of them. There's about
not all of them, but a handful of them.
13 cities and towns that I look at.
Okay, what are you watching tomorrow to see if Nikki Haley's going to have a big night?
The towns. I would watch Bedford. I'd watch two of the specific wards in Manchester. I would watch Hampton, New Hampshire, the seacoast towns. Up north, I'd take a look at Wolfboro and Conway.
And which ones of those do you think Haley will do very well?
I think, look, I honestly think she can do well in all of them. I think she'll do really well in Manchester specifically, and I think she'll surprise people in Bedford specifically. Yeah.
I guess we will have to see.
I don't know.
We will have to see. Let me ask you just one
more. I feel good, though. All the energy is behind Haley. Did you see the rallies last night, for example? 1,200 people, all the energy, all the excitement. Folks going crazy for Nikki Haley. Trump sat there with 300 people, and it was one of the most boring things you could ever watch. So it's really a role reversal. What is Trump doing now? He's getting the endorsements of all these establishment candidates out of D.C. He was supposed to be the anti-establishment guy, but no, now Nikki is. She's the one bucking the trends. We're a state that likes people that buck.
We will see if she bucks the trends tomorrow. We will certainly see. The voters will have their voice. Voices heard. Governor Chris Sununu, thank you so much for stopping by, joining me.